And screw you, Sky! Yeah. Screw you, Sky, because we've got him here. Put your hands together for the amazing Matt Le Tissier!
They've just said about half of what I was going to say. Screw you, Sky. No, thank you very much for inviting me again back to Hope, Sussex. It's an amazing place. It really is. I love coming in here. And for all those people out there who look at people like me and you guys out there and call us conspiracy theorists and tinfoil hat wearers, if they actually could come into this room and feel what I felt when I walk into this room, they would change their mind completely, because what I feel in this room is part of a tribe. It really is. I feel such positive energy when I come into rooms like this because of people like you who have an open mind and who have loving hearts and have the right intentions for humanity. So thank you very much for all coming and supporting me tonight and being here. Thank you. It's quite funny, for the first period when the vaccine came out and I was adamant I wasn't going to take it, and I would go to great lengths to tell people I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I had all my vaccines as a child. How can I be an anti-vaxxer? It's just this one that I don't want. And so I spent all this time going, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. And then I actually realised, actually, they're all shit, and I am an anti-vaxxer. So I'm sure that's a journey that quite a few of us may have been on. So yeah, I spent that time defending it, and now I just go, fuck it, I am. So get on with it. And if you want to call me a tinfoil hat wearer, yeah, I'm one of them as well. So yeah, it has been a fascinating time. I lost my job, obviously, at Sky. Sky might tell you that it wasn't because of my views that I was airing on social media. I think we all know the truth. I certainly do. And so yeah, but as I said, I wouldn't change anything I did. I stood up for what I believed in. I believe there has been a lot of justification in some of the views that I was sharing many years ago. Nobody will ever apologise. Actually, I've had a couple of people that did actually come and apologise to me because they thought I was mad, and some of them were my family. But I had three friends who I played golf with, who were all older than me, and they actually confided in me that they actually did think that I had gone a bit bonkers, and about 9 months after that, they both came to me and apologised and went, "We are really sorry." Given what's happened, given what we're seeing around us, you were right, and we're sorry. We did think you were mad, but actually, you knew what you were talking about, and we didn't know. And it's little conversations like that give me hope. That, you know, standing up for what you believe was the right thing to do. I had a conversation with Bob just earlier on where he was talking to me about his publishers, and he said that a couple of guys had his book publishers who weren't a particularly awake crowd, but a couple of them were fans of football and were fans of mine, and had actually been listening to what I was saying, and had actually, got interested, and actually, change their minds about the way things were happening. And so it's lovely to hear stories like that, because it means, you are making a difference to people. Sometimes you put things out on social media and you don't know how far it reaches. You don't know who's seeing it. We know what goes on social media in terms of the suppression of the information. And so it's lovely to hear little stories like that. It's been a fascinating time. And the last time I came here, I kind of waffled a lot. And I said to Katie Jo just now, I said, would you mind if we did a little question and answer from the audience? Because sometimes I can speak and you might not hear what you want to hear. So if you do have any questions that you'd like to ask me, then feel free while I'm waffling, just put your hand up. And I can take questions from the floor, because I like everyone to be involved. I don't like standing here on a pedestal because we're all as one. And so feel free to stick your hand up at any point if you want to ask a question. There's one gentleman right at the back there if you want to. You're curious about the meeting with the Premier League? It wasn't a meeting with the Premier League that I had. It was a meeting with the PFA, which was the Professional Footballers Association. So that was regarding the vaccines. When the rollout of the vaccine started, I started noticing when I was watching sport, which is what I do a lot. Sport's been my entire life. I don't really watch anything else on telly, certainly not the news. And so while I was watching all these sporting events, and not just the football, I was noticing that there was a lot of sportsmen and women were collapsing on the field of play with heart issues. And it was something that I'd never really seen before. You know, I spent 17 years as a professional footballer. And I can honestly tell you with my hand on my heart, I didn't see one athlete, one footballer in my time in 17 years who I played against, played with, trained with, which was 5 days a week for most of the year. I didn't see one issue with any player that had a heart problem. And then all of a sudden I'm seeing these things. And I was a little bit concerned that, you know, the PFA, who were meant to look after the welfare of the footballers, were completely ignoring the fact that this was happening and that there was a massive increase in players collapsing on the field of play. And so I put out a tweet and it said something along the lines of how many more people have to collapse on a field of play before the PFA start doing something about it. And I copied in the European Professional Footballers Association as well. And within about 10 minutes of putting this tweet out, I had a phone call. And the phone call was from a guy called Bobby Barnes. And Bobby had worked in the PFA. He'd got pretty high up in the PFA, and then he was pretty high up in the European, in the UEFA Footballers Association union. So 10 minutes after this tweet, Bobby rings me. And he said, all right, Matt. I said, oh, hi, Bob, how you doing? He said, yeah, I'm all right. He said, you know where I'm working now? And I went, no, you're not the PFA anymore. He said, no, I've moved to. And he went, just saw your tweet. I said, oh, that's good. He said, there's not been an increase. And I went, I'm sorry? He said, no. He said, you just didn't know about all the others that happened before. I said, hang on a minute, Bob. I said, I'm going to ask you a question. I said, me and you played about the same time. He's a couple of years older than me. I said, we played at the same time. I said, can you name me any players in our time that you saw suffer with a heart condition on a football pitch? And he waited, and I was waiting. And then he came up with a couple of names, which were both after we finished playing. Fabrice Muamba was one, Marc-Vivien Foé was another one. And I said, I'll stop you there, Bob. I said, because I know when you retired. I said, Marc-Vivien Foé was the year after I retired, and Fabrice Muamba was many years after we retired. I said, so I'll ask you the question again. During our time as professional footballers, how many did you see? And he went, none. And I went, pfft. I said, I'm not stupid, Bob. I said, you might want to try and cover this up. I said, but there's something happening. I said, and it's not just the players either. I said, have you seen the amount of medical emergencies that are going on in the crowds at football matches with games getting stopped? It was happening every week. I was working. I was listening to it. I was seeing it. And so eventually I managed to get a meeting with the FA to voice my concerns to the doctor at the FA. And backing me up on that phone call was, on the Zoom call, was Asim Malhotra. So Asim had also seen what was going on, and he had the same concerns as I did. And so we got on a call to the doctor at the FA, and the only reason we were allowed to have this call was because we had to agree that anything that was said during this Zoom call couldn't be made public. What have you got to hide? Was my question. And so we tried raising the alarm. The FA just ignored it. The PFA still ignore it today. However, not long after, the Football Association, the Premier League, stopped recommending their players to be jabbed again. So that, and I didn't know about this until the doctor at the FA, because what I didn't tell you is that after we had the Zoom call, whenever I then noticed another sportsman collapse on a pitch, I would just send an email to the doctor at the FA and go, "There's another one, there's another one, and there's another one." And then eventually she wrote me an email back after about the sixth one I'd sent, and she just said, "As you know, Premier League and the Football League are no longer recommending their players to have any more COVID jabs," which was news to me because they haven't told anyone publicly. They brought it in quietly. They never said anything to the public about it. Yet they were very quick to tell everybody that 95% of professional footballers have all had their vaccines, trying to advertise it to the rest of the population. And I can tell you, I had 2 conversations with 2 professional footballers at 2 different Premier League clubs. Both of them, separate conversations, both of them told me that it was about 50% of their squads had had the jabs and nowhere near 95%.
You only want to say something.
Yep.
But then you get emails afterwards, or phone calls going, "I know Mike, I know it's my job, it's my job." Did you have that same situation with you?
I had exactly the same situation. Yeah, I had a lot of support from people who were still working at Sky when I got sacked, and a lot of people saying that they fully agree with everything I'm saying, but I can't say anything because I need to keep my job. Which is exactly. If everybody just stood up and grew some balls, obviously not the trans ladies. But if everybody stood up for what was right, you're absolutely right. This woke agenda would collapse in a heartbeat. So that is absolutely true. But yes, I did have a lot of people contact me privately, saying that they support what I did. And a little part of me kind of understands why they did it. But there's also a massive part of me that wants to go, "Mate, it's not the end of the world if you lose your job. There is other ways to earn money. You've got talents. You can go and use them. And there are people, who have the same opinions as us, who are in positions that are willing to, support you and give you jobs and things." So, Bob's found out that you can actually live without being in the mainstream media. I've found out that you can live without being in the mainstream media. Obviously on 50% less than what I was on before, but it don't matter. I don't care because I'm happy, and I've never really been materialistic in any way, shape, or form. So, as you can tell by the way I dress, Bob's a bit smarter than me.
Yeah, we're on the TV, we can't say that. If they had had that conscience and gone, "Do you know what?"
Yes.
Do you think it would have changed?
I think if enough people had come out, when it first started happening, it would have changed a heck of a lot. I really do, because I think eventually it was weight of numbers that actually started to make some change in the world when people started protesting, and they saw the numbers that were coming out at these protests, on the streets of London, and it was that I think was a major. And I went on one of the protests for the 100k NHS nurses who were just about to be sacked if they didn't take the jabs. And they saw the amount of people. I think that was on the Saturday, and on the Monday they reversed the decision. So it can be done, and if people are big enough and brave enough to stand up when it first happens, and there's enough of us, definitely people will back down, because it's like anything in life, that they will try anything to bully you into submission. And I think we may have all experienced this. When you stand up to bullies, they normally back down because they're not used to resistance. And so, I think if enough people do it, then definitely it makes a difference. Yes, sir. That is a really good question. I haven't had that question before. Is there a conspiracy theorist that even other people might think has gone a bit too far? I don't. Listen, I've got a really open mind about a lot of stuff, and it's really weird because if you have an open mind about things and you're non-committal, people try and label you with stuff anyway. So people have tried labeling at me, even though I've never ever said it. People are trying to label me and going, "Oh, you're a flat. You think the Earth's flat, don't you?" And I'm like, "What the fuck? I've never said that." I was actually asked the question on a podcast, "Is the Earth flat?" And I went, "I don't know." Because I don't know. Like, I don't know whether it's flat or whether it's round. I mean, I don't know if we're spinning at 66 billion miles an hour. Piers, how many miles an hour are we spinning at, apparently? 1,000? 1,000 miles an hour? And
25, about 25 hours a day, and it was 25,000 miles.
Lovely, thank you very much. So basically, when you're asking somebody if they think that, you can have an opinion on it, but who actually knows for sure 100% whether it is or not? So I was just being honest. I don't know. Right?
Conspiracy theory for you. At one point, there was a conspiracy theory
That the Earth was round. That was a conspiracy theory. You're right. It was. And I think we all have to have open minds about things, unless you're 100% certain about something, which is incredibly rare. And it's going to be even rarer the more that AI gets its claws into things. You're going to start seeing pictures and things and people saying things on video, which is AI, that they've never ever said in their life. But you watch the video, you're not going to know any different. So they're blurring the lines between reality and the AI world, and it's a dangerous, dangerous place. I know Bob spoke a little bit about the AI. I find it incredibly dangerous, and I don't know if that's all part of the agenda to destabilize everybody and to make everybody think that we're in a dangerous world and the only people that can save us are our government and our politicians. Because fuck me, if that's the place you're going to get to, you're in a whole world of trouble. So I've read a lot. I don't know which ones are true, which ones aren't true. I've got my opinions, but it's very rare we'll know 100% one way or the other. So, yeah. I mean, I don't mind being called a conspiracy theorist now because a lot of them have come true about 6 months after I spoke about them. So, I actually prefer the term conspiracy realist, quite frankly. It's a lot more accurate. Yes, young lady.
In your industry, why do you think there's very few people who speak out? Do you think like they're money motivated, or they're right? If their children have got to live in this digital world, why do you think like there's some people like you are very courageous to speak out? If there's a lot of people like the Neville, one of the Neville brothers, he was asked the question about the cricket games, and he asked the guy, "Oh, you're okay?" Being sarcastic. That's not quite a normal response to have. So why do you think some people? What's the reason for them not speaking out, being silent?
What's the reason for not speaking out? I think, yeah, I know. I don't get it. Quite frankly, I don't get it because I don't want to live in the world that they've got planned for us. I don't know if they just don't understand what is possibly coming down the line. I think that's probably one of the big things about it. Having said that, Gary Neville, strangely enough, when it all kicked off in kind of April 2020, and there were a few of us speaking out against the measures that were being put in place, we actually got a big WhatsApp group together of like-minded celebrities or people with a platform, and we had a WhatsApp group for support and everything. And Gary joined that WhatsApp group very early on, and he was there for about 2 days and he left. There was another interesting one actually who joined the WhatsApp group who left very soon after, and she had a very big following, and that was Davina McCall. Yeah, so I think, and I know that a lot of them were warned off of speaking about things by their agents because they were worried about future work, and obviously the agent is worried because if they lose work, the agent loses work. So the agent is putting pressure on the artist to shut the fuck up because he can see that he's going to lose his money, and that's how the system works, really. People who go, "Oh, it must be a conspiracy theorist. Everyone can't be in on it. Well, they don't have to be. It's just the people at the top who put pressure, downward pressure on the people below, and the people at the lower levels probably don't even know what they're doing. They're just order followers, and I think they're one of the most dangerous people on this planet. The people who just follow orders without questioning anything are going to get us into a lot of trouble. And I'd hope now, if something like that happened again, I think we'd definitely have a few more numbers, because I definitely believe in my heart that there's way more good people on this planet than there is bad. And we will eventually win. It might be a slow process and we're fighting every day, but I think we're actually in a much better position now than what we were intended to be in the agenda that they wanted. They were, I believe, from what I've read, they were looking at lockdowns for a massive, way longer period than they actually did. And we've, by protesting and the numbers that we managed to get together, I think we've definitely put the brakes on what they had planned for us. But they're still going, and we've got to still keep going, and we've got to grow our numbers. And as I said, there's way more good people on this planet than there is bad, and we will win.